surgeons are here to help you look and feel your best.
Call or visit sanctuarycosmeticcenter.com.
Good morning, America. Bracing for impact. Hurricane Willa barreling through the Pacific on the verge of becoming a Category 5 storm, taking aim at popular tourist spots in Mexico and heading for already hard-hit Texas. Ginger tracking the latest this morning.
Thousands of Central American migrants march into Mexico, vowing to get to the U.S., clashing with riot police, jumping off a bridge to avoid tear gas. Families face blistering heat on their mission to get to America as President Trump vows to send the military to greet them at the U.S. border.
Bachelor party tragedy. 4 American tourists and their guide killed in a rafting accident. One of the survivors now revealing what happened during those terrifying moments in the water. And the investigation underway this morning.
Homecoming horror. The terrifying floor collapse during a party at Clemson. Dozens injured, falling into the basement. What witnesses say they saw just before the floor caved in.
Super Bowl showdown. Amy Schumer protests the big game in support of Colin Kaepernick, saying she won't appear in any commercials, and calling on Maroon 5 to boycott the halftime show after Rihanna turns down a chance to perform. Will other celebrities follow their lead?
I wanna be a billionaire. And who wants to be a billionaire? That massive Mega Millions jackpot, now the biggest prize ever. $1.6 billion up for grabs this morning. The high-stakes countdown to that gigantic payout.
Smiling next to Oprah and the Queen.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Just think about it. Someone could be an instant billionaire this week. Good morning, America. Great to have you with us this Monday morning, and it's great to have Cecilia here.
Good to be here on this lotto fever day. Take a look at these lines that are forming all across the country over the weekend, and now that jackpot is $1.6 billion. I keep wanting to go billion. Did you guys buy your tickets? No.
Yeah, sure I did.
I haven't yet.
We're going to have more on that later. We're going to begin, though, with a dangerous new tropical threat, Hurricane Willa. It's heading for popular resort towns in Mexico, threatening to drench already hard-hit parts of Texas. Ginger tracking the storm. Good morning, Ginger.
Oh, good morning, George. These are the images, like this dock that was ripped from someone's property in a river in Texas that we're concerned about coming back this week because they've had so much rain in the hill country of Texas. And now this, a Category 4 hurricane, is going to give them more. So what's going to happen here is tomorrow night through early Wednesday, as a 3 or 4, doesn't matter, going to be a very strong hurricane between Mazatlan and Puerto Vallarta, should bring life-threatening storm surge up to 18 inches of rain there. It gets ripped apart in the mountains, so it won't necessarily be a storm anymore, but it'll funnel tons of moisture right there to the area in Texas that does not need it. We're going to be following it, Robin.
I know you will. Okay, Ginger, thank you. Now the latest on that growing humanitarian crisis over the border. A caravan of thousands of migrants from Central America trying to make their way through Mexico and head toward the U.S., sparking a fierce political battle here just 2 weeks ahead of the midterm elections. President Trump saying he will deploy the U.S. military if necessary. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, is with the caravan there in Mexico. Good morning, Matt.
Tensions growing as Mexican police brace for another possible clash with this endless column of Central American migrants. The migrants bursting through the gate at the border separating Mexico from Guatemala over the weekend. Riot police responding with tear gas. Some jumping over the bridge to avoid the melee. This migrant caravan miles long, filled with families clutching children, all of them trudging on foot deeper into Mexico. Poised to try to cut them off on Sunday, hundreds of Mexican federal police bearing shields and armor. But just as the migrants approached, the officers pulled back, setting up again 3 miles down the road and again retreating for the second time.
Por favor, escúchenos.
Mexican immigration officials pleading with them to register for asylum, but most kept walking. President Trump vowing over the weekend to greet them at the U.S. border, not with words, but with force.
You have some very tough criminal elements within the caravan, but I will seal off the border before they come into this country, and I'll bring out our military.
They started out in Honduras a week ago, 2,500 miles separating them from the United States. Footsore and weary, migrants straggled on under a merciless sun.
They're carrying babies, some of them with backpacks and plastic bags holding the absolute essentials. Many of them say they want to keep walking all the way to the United States.
On Sunday, the heat turning migrants desperate, sending them scrambling for water. Mexican motorists taking pity, allowing dozens to pile in and to hang on to pickups and even semi-trailers. Blanca and her family had been walking since 4 a.m., one of many for whom returning to their home country would be a matter of life and death.
For Blanca, there is a serious concern that the gangs who killed her husband are going to come back for her family and the rest of them, and so it's just not safe either in their home or their city.
A rickshaw driver offered Blanca's children a ride. Another mother begged for her heat-stricken daughter to be allowed in. She was delirious and tried to get out, collapsing into my arms.
Put her in the seat. No, put her on the floor. No, it's too hot on the floor.
There was no ambulance in sight, no help.
Now, that rickshaw driver, we met up with him later. He told us that he dropped that girl off at an ambulance, which apparently took her to a hospital. We are told that she is okay this morning. And Robin, you mentioned that humanitarian crisis that's building. I just want to show you where we are. This is the main town square in the city of Tapachula, about 20 miles away from the border. And there are literally thousands of people everywhere you look. I mean, they're literally, I'll show you here, they're sleeping in the bushes here. And this morning, you know, families are starting to just gather their meager possessions. This is Argentina Rivera and her family of 5 kids. And ahead, they have a long road because there are no facilities here, no bathrooms, no showers, and they face a potential clash with Mexican authorities later today. Robin.
But Mexican authorities have also offered asylum, but the migrants are leery of that offer?
Yeah, they've rejected it so far because they're concerned that it's a trick to try to deport them back to Honduras. They've also realized that the sheer numbers have offered them strength. They've literally been walking right past Mexican immigration authorities and police for the past couple days now.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Cecilia.
Those images so tough to look at, and you wonder why they would be willing to face those conditions, what it is that they're fleeing from back home. We do want to turn now to the latest on that assassination of the Washington Post columnist, the Saudis' ever-evolving story about what really happened to Jamal Khashoggi changing yet again, and President Trump's response has changed too. He now says there's been deception and lies after first calling the Saudis' version of events credible. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Turkey with the very latest. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, Cecilia. That's right. All eyes still on the consulate behind me. We've now had the Saudi version of events, of how Jamal Khashoggi was apparently killed. But that accounting failing to convince a growing chorus of critics who are now demanding a full and frank explanation of what really happened here 20 days ago now.
This morning, CNN's been given what they say is surveillance video, described to them by Turkish authorities as one of the key suspects, dressed in Khashoggi's clothes, leaving the back of the consulate shortly after he was killed. The man seen impersonating the writer, now in Saudi custody. A Saudi official telling ABC News his body was handed over to someone local, quotes, for disposal, but claiming they don't know who that was or where the body is. This comes as new surveillance images are released showing the last moments before his death. You can see here Khashoggi being searched before entering the Saudi consulate. And here with his fiancée, saying goodbye for what would be the very last time. After first saying Khashoggi died in a fistfight, the Saudi official now making a stunning new claim that a physical altercation ensued when Jamal tried to leave. In order to prevent him from calling for help, one of the accused suspects placed him in a chokehold position. He died as a result. But Turkish leaks suggesting this was instead a gruesome, premeditated murder, not an accident. The Saudis still standing by the claims, though, that King Salman and the Crown Prince knew nothing. Overnight, releasing a statement saying they called Khashoggi's eldest son to express their condolences. This, 19 days after he was killed.
This was an operation that was a rogue operation. This was an operation where individuals ended up exceeding the authorities and responsibilities they had.
The claim this was rogue first raised by President Trump 6 days ago.
It sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers. Who knows?
But now the president taking a tougher stand, telling the Washington Post Obviously, there's been deception and there's been lies. And senators continuing to question the Saudi version of events.
In Saudi Arabia, you do not do something of this magnitude without having clearance from the top.
The Saudis have said a whole bunch of crap that's not right, accurate, or true.
Well, key question this morning, what is Turkey's next move? President Erdogan speaking tomorrow. Will he now produce real evidence to back up these claims of a gruesome murder? Will we hear the audio tapes? Many people looking at this. The Turks essentially questioning the Saudis' accounting, saying this wasn't an accident, this was premeditated murder. George?
Okay, Ian, thanks very much. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, John Carl, for more on this. And that President Erdogan of Turkey also spoke to President Trump yesterday. And the president is shifting his story a bit, but still calling Saudi Arabia an incredible ally. So he's got to figure out how to balance punishing the Saudis for this while preserving the relationship.
That's right, George, and he's got some real pressure coming, genuine anger coming from both Republicans and Democrats in Congress who want to see sanctions on Saudi Arabia. Rand Paul, one of the president's closest allies, said he'd like to see the arms sales scheduled to Saudi Arabia cut off. The president himself has been kind of all over the map. You heard Ian Pennell mention the interview with the Washington Post where the president said, obviously, there's been deception, there's been lies, their stories are all over the place. But in that very same interview, George, the president said this of the Crown Prince, saying he's a strong person, he has very good control, he's seen as a person who can keep things under check, and I mean that in a positive way. So although the president has been critical in some senses of the Saudis, although he has called for severe punishment, he does not seem like he wants to do anything that could jeopardize the U.S.-Saudi relationship.
That could be trouble for him if there's more evidence implicating the Crown Prince going forward. 15 days until the midterm elections. President out on the stump just about every day. His poll number is also on the rise.
Absolutely. We had a new poll, NBC Wall Street Journal poll yesterday, that had his approval rating at the highest point of his presidency, 47%. Of course, you still had a net negative 49% disapproving. And even in that poll, George, there were signs of trouble for the Republicans. In that poll, Democrats were seen as significantly more likely to vote in the midterm elections than Republicans, which would be a big change from recent midterm elections.
And they still have about a 9-point edge in the House races. Okay, John, thanks very much. Robin?
And George, now to that tragic rafting accident that killed 5 people, including 4 American tourists in Costa Rica for a bachelor party. This morning, we're hearing from one of the survivors about those terrifying moments in the water. ABC's Victor Oquendo has the story.
These are the 4 American tourists killed in a tragic rafting accident in Costa Rica over the weekend. They were part of a group of 14 from South Florida who traveled to the Central American country for a bachelor party. On Saturday, the longtime friends who all attended the same Miami high school set out on the Naranjo River with Costa Rican guides on 3 different rafts. Every single one capsized. Survivor Chris Gomez told ABC News, "All of us were careening down the river, just trying to stabilize and find something to hold on to as our bodies ricocheted against the rocks." Gomez adding, "Most of us were ultimately able to await rescue teams. Unfortunately, not all of us were so lucky." The search lasted hours. Authorities flew above the river. This video from the Ministry of Public Security of Costa Rica. By nightfall, all 5 bodies were found. The groom, Luis Beltran, survived, but his brother Sergio Lorenzo did not, as well as George Gasso, Ernesto Sierra, and Andres Dennis. In a statement, Dennis's family said they're devastated. He had just graduated college and was studying for the LSAT. Guide Kevin Thompson Reed's body also recovered. The river near the Pacific coast is very popular with tourists, but authorities say the river was swollen by heavy rains and there was an alert for possible flooding.
And that survivor told us that the weather was rough. They all capsized within minutes of heading out. He said it was like a living nightmare. The U.S. State Department is working with local authorities. This is all under investigation. Cecilia?
Okay, Victor, thank you. We want to turn now to the urgent manhunt for a cop killer outside of Atlanta. The officer gunned down while responding to a report of a suspicious vehicle. One suspect is in custody. The other, now facing a murder charge, is still at large. ABC's Steve Osunsami has the very latest.
Police in Georgia this morning are searching for a suspect accused in the killing of one of their own. Officer Antoine Tony was shot and killed after responding to a call about a suspicious vehicle parked near a middle school in Gwinnett County Saturday afternoon. Before the officer and his partner could even walk up to the car, police say someone inside started shooting at police through the glass.
The responding officers did, in fact, return fire, and one of the officers dragged Officer Tony away to cover.
Officer Tony was hit and rushed to Gwinnett Medical Center in the Atlanta suburbs, where he died. The suspects in the car sped away, but Saturday night, police were able to find 19-year-old Isaiah Pretlow. He's charged with aggravated assault. He's being held without bond and has not yet entered a plea. The second suspect is this young man, 18-year-old Tafari Maynard, who is still on the run and accused of aggravated assault and felony murder. Officer Tony was just a few days short of his 3rd anniversary on the force when he was killed. This is a blow to the law enforcement community across Metro Atlanta. At police precincts, families are hanging blue ribbons with the officer's badge number.
It's basically just the one thing that people can do to say thank you for not only what he gave up, but what he did every day.
At one point overnight, police had a house surrounded. They thought the suspect was inside it, but he wasn't. The call that began all of this was a person calling in saying that there were a group of guys in a car smoking pot, and somehow this turned deadly, showing just how dangerous the job is for police on the force every day. There is a vigil, Cecilia, scheduled tonight.
Such a danger, Steve. Thank you. And our thoughts certainly go out to that community and the officer's family, guys.
Sure
George?
do.
Yeah.
We're going to switch gears now. It's Mega Millions time. Jackpot now at least $1.6 billion. That's the largest ever ahead of tomorrow night's drawing. Gio Benitez here. Gio, if there's a single winner, that person leaps right onto the Forbes list of the world's richest people.
They would, George. Good morning. Yeah, if they take that lump sum cash option, that's still $904 million. And this morning, it's a high-stakes countdown for that epic payout, the biggest jackpot ever, and we can't say it enough, $1.6 billion.
The winner of the Mega Millions game would join the ranks of the wealthiest people on Earth, surpassing some of the most successful celebrities like Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, and George Clooney.
It's been insane. Everybody's looking to win a little piece of the pie.
The last time someone won the Mega Millions, it was back in July in an office pool. 11 coworkers sharing $543 million. Jen Mayolino is hoping her pool has similar luck. Her Facebook group called the Happy Hours. They buy and post their lottery tickets online.
There is no plan. There's just dreams. We're just hoping, and you know, of course, everyone will quit their job.
But office pools don't always go as planned. Take the construction worker in New Jersey who was in charge of buying the lottery tickets for his work pool. But without telling anyone, he claimed the $38 million win for himself alone. He was sued and lost, which is why experts say set the ground rules early and in writing.
Appoint a lottery captain whose job it is to collect the money, buy the ticket, secure the ticket, photocopy the ticket so no one can claim that the ticket belongs to them.
Yeah, get that in writing. Now, the odds of winning are 1 in 302 million. That also means there are 302 million different combinations. So if you had enough money to buy all of the tickets, win, and choose the lump sum cash payout, you'd still end up with a $300 million profit. That's, of course, if you're the only winner. If you're not, oops, you just lost $302 million. Yeah.
You are really enjoying this. You are enjoying this so much, Gia. Let's get back down to Ginger. And, baby, it is cold outside.
Oh, it's so cold this morning, and this image doesn't help at all. Notre Dame, the first time a concert was held there in all of the stadium's history for Garth Brooks, and it snowed. Plenty of cold where that came from, and that's only the first shot this week. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, though, the Select City is sponsored by Edward Jones.
Hey, Maya, what's up?
Hey, so listen, I was taking another look at your overall financial strategy. You're still thinking about opening your own shop?
Every day.
I think there are some ways to help keep you on track and closer to home.
I'm all ears.
How did Edward Jones grow to $1 trillion in assets under care?
Thanks.
By thinking about your goals as much as you do.
Bundle up and dress in layers heading out the door this morning. Wow, it's cold. We're starting out in the 30s, your lowest temperature since the mid part of April, but we're going to warm very nicely with sunshine. A dry day ahead, 53 at lunchtime today, close to 60 degrees at 3 o'clock, and even 50s there at 7 o'clock. But we are going to start tracking some changes, and that's going to be midweek. We're back down into the 50s, and for late Friday, early Saturday, coastal storm with rain and wind set for Saturday, the high 49.
Coming up, that Super Bowl showdown. Amy Schumer calling on other celebrities to do in support of Colin Kaepernick.
And we're going to tell you the story behind this video right here.
with uncontrolled